Prime Minister who's lost control of everything. He's lost control of the borders, lost control of immigration, and lost control of spending. Recently, it came to light that the deficit is much bigger than his finance minister reported in the recent budget. Now, the Prime Minister claims that he can't tell us what the deficit is for this year. Okay, so we'll make it easier for him. What was the deficit last year?
Yeah.
Good question. Very simple.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we see the lengths to which the Conservative leader will go to not talk about the fact that we are proposing a tax break for Canadians over the coming months, because he's going to vote against that, Mr. Speaker. He's going to vote against direct help for families at the grocery store, with children's clothes, with supports for Canadians in everyday expenses. Why? Because he'd rather continue to see Canadians suffer, because maybe that'll help him get elected, rather than actually solve the challenges that Canadians are facing. Well, we're stepping up to deliver on dental care, on school foods, on initiatives that directly help workers. That's what we'll continue to do.
The honourable member for Sudbury. Mr. Speaker, like everywhere else, affordability is an important issue in my riding. Sudbury workers were pleased to learn that they will receive a $250 check to support them. Can the Prime Minister tell Canadians what other measures have been announced to support them as the holidays approach? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. I'd like to thank the member for Sudbury for her question and for her hard work. We know that the last few years have been tough, and that's why we're going to give a tax break to all Canadians. This means that Canadians won't have any tax to pay for 2 months on groceries and other essential goods that they use every day. We're putting more money back in the pockets of Canadians so they can buy what they need and save to buy what they wish.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, to show how weak he is, he actually has to read a script just to talk about his tiny 2-month tax break. My question a moment ago, though, was about the deficit. He admits that deficits contribute to inflation. We now have reports from the Parliamentary Budget Officer that he appointed showing that the deficit is far bigger than he advertised in his last budget. So once again, I'll ask slowly, what was Canada's federal deficit last year?
Very simple question.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, I'll take no lessons from someone who stays up late every night rehearsing his little performances in the mirror. The fact, Mr. Speaker, is we're continuing to step up for Canadians because we have the lowest deficit in the G7. We have the best debt-to-GDP ratio and are projected to have the strongest growth in the G7 ahead of the United States next year. These are things that we've done because we've been investing not just in Canadians and support for them, but also in drawing in global investment. Third largest foreign direct investment in the world last year, Mr. Speaker. People investing in Canada because they believe in Canadians. Why doesn't the Leader of the Opposition believe in Canadians?
You've driven out investment now.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
I know the Prime Minister said that he'll leave the economy to bankers. Well, the bankers are sure rolling in cash, collecting interest on the national debt that he has already doubled, while Canadians line up at food banks. The question, though, was about the size of the deficit. You cannot run a $500 billion G7 government if you don't know anything about the finances of that government. So can the Prime Minister tell us, does he actually know the size of the deficit?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what we are focused on is delivering for Canadians, is being there to recognize that Canadians need support now as we build a stronger future for them. That's why we're drawing in global investment to a higher rate than just about any other country per capita in the G20. We are delivering things that make a real difference in Canadians' lives, like dental care, like a school food program, like more spaces in childcare at $10 a day, like a tax break for the next two months, like like direct support for workers. All things, Mr. Speaker, that the Conservatives are voting against because they care more about themselves than they do about Canadians.
That's right.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, he doesn't know.
No, he doesn't. No.
I was tempted to accuse him of hiding it, but as Napoleon Bonaparte said, never attribute to malice what can be explained by incompetence.
Yep.
Mr. Speaker, who's actually running this government?
Mark Carney?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, while the Leader of the Opposition continues to focus on me, I'm going to stay focused on delivering for Canadians, delivering a tax break for the next few months that will help Canadians with the cost of everything, deliver on supports for workers, deliver on supports for seniors, deliver on supports for youth. These are all things that the Conservative Party votes against. Not because Conservative MPs don't care about these things, but because they've been throttled and muzzled by their leader so that they can't actually be their community's voice in Ottawa. They're there to be their leader's voice in their communities. Shame on them, Mr. Speaker.
Order. Order. The Honourable Member from Vaughan Woodbridge.
Mr. Speaker, people...
Oh, here we go.
Order,
a Liberal asking
please.
a Liberal questions.
The Honourable Member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Mr. Speaker, people in my riding are counting us to deliver essential supports like the Canadian Dental Care Plan. But the Conservative Party's stubborn blocking of the House for their social media clips is putting this program at serious risk. This isn't about politics, Mr. Speaker. This is about access to health care in Canadians. Can the Prime Minister remind us all, what is at risk if this House continues to put politics...
Excuse me. I'm going to... Colleagues. I'm going to ask all members to please not take the floor unless they're recognized by the Speaker. I had great difficulty hearing the answer to this question. So I'm going to ask the Honourable Member from Brantford-Brant, please, to not... I'm going to ask the Honourable Member from Brantford-Brant, please, to not take the floor while the Speaker is speaking. The Honourable Member from Vaughan Woodbridge from the top, please. The Honourable Member.
Mr. Speaker, people in my riding of Vaughan Woodbridge are counting on us to deliver essential supports like the Canadian Dental Care Plan. But the Conservative Party's stubborn blocking of the House for their social media clips is putting this program at serious risk. This isn't about politics, Mr. Speaker. This is about Canadians. This is about access to health care. Can the Prime Minister remind us all what is at risk if this House continues with politics over Canadians? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member for Vaughan Woodbridge for his hard work on the file and his question. Canadians are not surprised to see Conservative leader blocking key programs to support them. But I think we're all kind of surprised to see the NDP standing by. The NDP is actually helping Conservatives block dental care, health care for refugees, clean drinking water for Indigenous communities. The NDP owes it to Canadians to stop playing the Conservative Party's games, do the right thing, and end this obstruction of Parliament so we can all deliver for Canadians.